Hello everybody, Tiffany here for Create with Prima. If you are new to this YouTube channel, I hope you subscribe so you do not miss out on any of the amazing videos that we share here. So I am going to be creating a mixed media canvas, and I am going to be using some Rose Quartz paper as my base. And also I am using a Prima watercolor panel. So I use these often in place of a canvas. I like them. They're very sturdy and hold well to all of the mediums that I put on it. So I cut down a piece of the 12 by 12 paper from the paper pack, which does not have foil. I always like to add that just in case people are looking for the one with the foil. So I cut it down to 8 by 8, and I add some 3D matte gel to adhere it to the panel. And then I'm just taking a brayer and just lightly going over it so that it adheres nicely. And now I'm taking some heavy gesso and just adding a coat of that onto the paper. This way all of my sprays and everything that I add will not soak into the paper right away. I'm taking some 3D matte gel again, and I'm going to be adhering some tissue paper. This is a really easy and cheap way to add texture to your mixed media projects, whether it is a canvas or art journal. It's really fun, and you can also stamp on your tissue paper, which adds to the end result of your project. I didn't do that today just because I knew that I was going to be adding a lot of sprays, so it was going to get covered up anyways. And I add a coat of gesso on top just so that it is nice and prepped for all of my sprays. And again, I'm going with some cheap and easy ways to add texture to your mixed media projects. So I'm taking some cardboard and I peeled away one of the layers so it is now corrugated cardboard, and it adds a lot of texture to your project. And for the most part, everybody has boxes laying around that you could do this with. So I am adding one of Frank Garcia's gorgeous frames. Of course, this is optional. You can use anything for your focal point for your project, but I have been dying to use one of these. These clay pieces, I used a IOD mold to create these, and I do a bunch of these all at once. That way I have them on hand so that I can use them whenever I want, and so I'm not messing around with clay and stuff. It just, I don't know, I most likely won't use them if I don't have them on hand. You can add anything really to add interest and texture and different elements to your project. I love the IOD molds. There are so many wonderful shapes. So what I'm doing now is, again, with the 3D matte gel, I am just placing it here and there where I know I'm going to want to add my art stones. And I use mini art stones, the regular art stones, and then in the end, I remember that I have some mega art stones, which are super cool and fun. So I put the 3D matte gel down, and then I'm going to pour on the art stones and then press them into the gel just a little bit so they're adhered in there. Finally I found a way that it works the best for me, because before I was mixing it all together and I was losing a lot of that texture from the art stones. So now I am adding the mini art stones, which just basically fills in all of those little nooks that the regular art stones didn't get into, and then it just kind of completes the whole look of all of the texture that you're gonna want for your project. And here I'm going to be adding some more gel, and then I'm gonna be adding the mega art stones. These are huge and they're super fun, and they add a ton of texture to your projects. And I made sure that I added a lot of gel so that the big art stones would press into the gel so that they would adhere really well to the whole piece. So now is one of the funnest parts of creating mixed media canvases, is that you can put on anything that you want. I have just a bunch of random things from Prima, and they're the mechanicals, and then this is one of the little spoons from Frank Garcia, and then I have the art pebbles, just a ton of different items that I'm going to be adding to my project. But you can definitely add anything. You can add buttons, you can add old watch pieces, like all the gears and just all sorts of things. This is where it gets fun, because then you can create a one-of-a-kind piece just for you, and kind of get rid of some of that junk maybe laying around in your junk drawer or just laying around your garage or anything like that. So use your imagination. It's all going to be covered up with paint anyways, so it doesn't really matter the color or anything like that, just as long as you feel it's going to create some cool interest on your project. So I am going to be adding some seashells. Even though my piece is not like beach theme related or anything like that, I just thought they were really cool and add a lot of interest to my project. And I had them laying around from a different project anyways, so I just thought I would add a few here and there. And again, they're all going to get painted. It's all going to get painted over anyways. And then you're going to add all of your paints and sprays and everything like that. So just creates fun texture and interest for your project. I am going to be adding some crackle paste to my project. I love adding crackle paste. This is a white one. There is clear and gold, and I think one more color. I can't remember what it is, but it adds a lot of texture and interest to your project, especially when you let it dry completely, and the cracks are just amazing. So what I like to do is I either use a paintbrush or the silicone brush, and I add the paste thicker in some areas and thinner in others. That way I can get a variation of cracks on my project. And now I'm just going to paint the whole piece after everything has dried on and it is all adhered down. I'm going to add 2 or 3 coats of gesso just so that everything is nice and prepped and nice and white, and then I can start adding all of my sprays. I am going to have all of these sprays that I used listed down below in the description box. So be sure to check it out if you're curious to know what colors I'm using. They're all listed down below. I am just going to explain briefly how I add the color and build up the color on my mixed media canvases and projects, and then I will just play some music and let you watch the process. So I add the color, my base color first, which is normally my lightest color, and then what I do is I add a little bit of water and then tilt it back and forth, side to side, and let the color just kind of flow where it wants to and get in all of those cracks and nooks and crannies. And that's where you're going to really get all of your depth, and all of that texture is going to start showing up. And then I add a darker color. In this case, I added the darkest color, and then I added the middle color, which is kind of backwards, but it all ended up working out fine. So I just continue to add the color, and then I add little bits at a time, and for the most part I use a nozzle of the bottle instead of spraying it. That way I have more control over where my color is going, and then I add a little bit of water and then let it flow where it wants to. So again, I just continue to do this and build up my color, and then when I'm happy with it, I dry it and see if I need to add any more color. And then that's basically all there is to it. So you just kind of add your color where you want, build it up, let it dry, and see if you want to add more. I also always have a baby wipe or paper towel nearby, just in case there is a lot of color seeping off of my piece, and then that way I could just soak it up and then also if it runs where I don't want it to, and I could just kind of dab it off. So all of my color is dry, and now I'm going to be adding some Opal Magic Wax in Vintage Silk. This is definitely my go-to wax when I want to highlight different textures on my projects. It's just the right amount of shimmer. I'm not too much of a shimmery person or glitter person, but it's just perfect and it highlights all of that texture perfectly. So I'm going to be adding some gesso. I'm just dry brushing it on. What that means is I'm taking a dry brush, nothing on it, and just lightly adding a little bit of that gesso and then just dry brushing on just to highlight a little bit more of those raised areas and all of that texture on my project. And to finish my project, I am adding more depth with the Precious Stone Color Bloom Spray, and that is going to get in all of those nooks and crannies and in all of the art pebbles and the art stones and just finish it off, I think. So that is going to complete my project for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, share it on social media, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.